And this is why I start 5 minutes early. Okay, I see two there. Somebody's here. Hey, Shogun. How's it going? Hi. I presume the sound is all right. Yeah, apparently what happened when I moved the computer, one of the wires lost contact for a split second. And then, of course, like everything else with YouTube, there's no way to fix it from the stream. You have to close the stream and start a new stream. Isn't that wonderful? So, anyhow, gold miner, yeah. Spinning circle kills you. Yeah, I know, David. Oh, wait just a minute here while other people show up. I'm waiting for Lars. Lars, are you here? Because you made a comment I'm just going to have to respond to. Good, David. I'm getting a little bit better at remembering to double check and it's kind of funny with YouTube. It doesn't keep your settings, but when you come back, it says webcam, the USB cam, and it doesn't mean it. You have to click on the other one and then click back on the USB cam to make it work. Genius. You need some equipment. It's going to be hard to get to the claim. What kind of equipment and what do you mean by hard to get to the claim? I mean, what kind of situation do you have to transport it over? Just a tad blurry. That's probably me. I just had my eye done last week, so I'm probably still blurry. See this one right here? But anyhow, so Shogun, what is your situation? You got to get your equipment over, and blind dude, that sounds so apropos for me right now. And what kind of equipment do you need to get up there? Yeah, you could do a chopper. You can break it down into smaller pieces at a time. I say I don't know how much terrain you have to cross and how big of pieces. Hey, Lars, are you here yet, Lars? That's okay, smoking. Oh, were you the guy that wrecked his truck on I-90 outside of Missoula this morning? There you go, Lars. Okay. Dessert. How's that? You want to see me eat and be risky? You got it.
Hi, everybody.
No Jim. Not sure why. Called this morning. No, it's actually kind of like a baby Ruth, but without carbs. Chris says hi.
Howdy, howdy.
We got Shulin Labros. Schuyler. Sounds like he's from Europe.
Europe is that place that ain't America.
Yeah. Eva, David Vehicles. Eva the goddess, make her presence. Skylar, huh? So are vehicles allowed, Jeffrey? And if not, and what kind of equipment do you need to haul up there? Well, Guitar Guy, right now we're trying to figure out what exactly the problem Jeffrey has in terms of getting equipment to a claim so he can try and figure out a way to help him get it there. Um, Aside from that, I've got some progress to report on the resin, although not as much as I'd like to. Um, it's things come in kind of slow from Amazon this time of year. Um, and Eva went to her doctor today, the oncologist, and he didn't see anything that overly concerned him, but he's going to be running a few tests and stuff to see if he can find anything. The weather kind of sucked, but not horribly. Um, the It was precipitating a bit. The road was wet on the way up there. Occasional patches of slush. That was about it. We have a 6,500 foot pass to go over. I don't know. 2 miles is a long way um, for rope, Chris. Pack mules and stuff. If it's small enough stuff, um, then I would uh, really consider a pack mule or even pack llamas. They make those nowadays. That's the newest edition. What metal detector do I recommend for a first-time buyer? Well, first thing I do, Skylar, is you need to determine what conditions are you going to be using it in. If there's going to be a lot of trash, um, then you need something that'll allow you to discriminate pretty well, and figure out what it is before you dig it. Although that's got its pluses and minuses. Um, is it highly mineralized ground? Um, I think that probably the two best good quality machines at an intermediate price would be the Gold Bug 2 and the Gold Monster from Mine Lab. The Mine Lab 4000 that I have, it's actually my brother's. And Shogun, you probably can if you know what you're doing. You might have to rent a Wrangler also. If that'll get the equipment that you need in there, that might be your cheapest way to go about it. Unless the road's wide enough to fit a quad. Yeah, and that's always a good idea if you can, Skylar, is test it first. Another thing you can do is go to a prospecting club if you have one in your area. I'm not sure where you're at, but if there is a prospecting or a detector club in your general area, then I would, see about meeting them and arranging, trying various equipment to see what fits your needs best. So you're in Kingman. Oh, you should have plenty of prospecting and detectoring clubs in that area then, Skylar. So yeah, look up some of those, and you might also be able to go to somebody who sells them and be able to rent one, or go out in the back 40 there with them, and they can show you the pluses and minuses of different things. Yeah, if a quad will work, Shogun, and if it's legal, then it's kind of hard to beat what it can carry and how easy it can carry it. Okay, and where is Bill Sutherland, David? Can you tell him what city he's in? Yeah, a Rokon too. It depends on your balance, Chris. Someone like me is better off on a quad if you can, but like a Rokon with a little narrow trailer, that might work out pretty well. Okay, so there's someone that might want to meet you up, Skylar, and help you out. And that's another good question: is how much do you have to spend, Skylar? How much can you spend and not be upset if you don't use it too much later? That's a really important question. I'm not sure, Chris. I've seen a couple, but I've never used them or anything. Okay, Shogun. I say there's certain advantages there, and you can also perhaps come up with a smaller than standard, I mean narrower than standard trailer. You know, you can make it almost like a travois with wheels towards the back and close together, and then a hitch up front, and something to that effect might allow you to negotiate a fairly small trail um, rather than a full-size quad trailer. And so if you can legally do it by machine, I tend to go by machine. They have a lot less maintenance in the off season. Um, the negative is, of course, a machine makes more noise, draws more attention, in many cases is illegal. Yeah. Well, if you can get a quad through, you can get a little trailer, a little narrow trailer through.
Well, I found something for the tinfoil hat report.
Okay. And so, yeah, I don't know if you folks are familiar with a Rokon. It's a motorcycle, but I mean, it's got small, wide tires, about this wide, and it's got front wheel drive also. Both wheels are driven. So that will, it'll go a lot of places. It won't go super fast, but that's okay. As long as it gets you there, that's the main thing. I suppose it would float on its tires if you got off of it so you could balance it. Yeah. So, yeah, that could work well too. You store gas in the rims. Wow. Sweet. Yeah, they're a pretty interesting device. That's entirely possible, gold miner. Cost and energy source are the two things I can think of right now. They run off electricity, although if you had like pneumatics or hydraulics, you could run a little internal combustion engine. That's good, blind dude. Yeah, it's a nice thing. It's a lot narrower than a quad. The advantage to a quad is you can't fall over too easy on a quad, but yeah, they're not nearly as maneuverable. Um, so it would depend on your particular situation as to which one's the best, and also cost. Does anyone know what a Rokon costs? I am simply not sure.
How are you spelling this?
Rokon, I believe. Yeah, they can be, Chris. My brother wound up under one once. He said if he hadn't been able to get it off him, he'd be dead. Somebody says 9. Jeff Kablock. Skylar says 2,500. I'm thinking Jeff is maybe looking new and Skylar is looking used.
I see a 2021 model Ranger for $92.75.
Yeah, that sounds like it. A new one's about $9. Used is probably about $2,500.
Here's a 2010 for $6,000.
Yeah, an older one will get cheaper. Chris is 2 to 8K for a Rokon. And was the tote goat basically very similar to a Rokon, Chris? Yeah, I'm not sure, Blind Dude, what's the best for really tiny gold. Make sure you classify it well. Classify it, if there's any big gold too, classify it, run it through kind of a standard sluice, then run it over another classifier and run the fines through the fine recovery mat. Chris says they're very similar. Yeah, they could. I know someone I could probably get one fairly inexpensive from, but say I don't need one at this point. Right now I'm using a quad and it works out good. What do I think about dry washing, Skylar? If you got the right gold, it works great. If you don't have the right gold, you can get finer gold wet washing, but me and I Break for Bedrock were out at a place they had once where they were actually digging decomposed bedrock, and the gold was so coarse that they ran it through an impact mill and over a dry washer, and they were getting really good recoveries. When I had the tailings assayed, there wasn't squat in them. So again, like everything else, it depends on the gold in the matrix. And if you got the right size gold in the right matrix and it's dry washing works well. If it's moist, then it doesn't work too well because it won't separate. I don't know, John. Chris, is a tote goat one wheel or two wheel drive? Yeah, I say and it was in kind of the general Phoenix Prescott area there, and it was doing a darn good job. That was the first time I've ever seen that kind of coarse gold in bedrock before. But boy, they had found it. Yeah, David, the Rokon has two-wheel drive, so that would have some advantages for sure. Chris, who seems to be familiar with both, says the Rokon's a little more capable. If you were on some really difficult terrain, you'd probably be well advised to get a Rokon in good condition. I'm also not sure, again, I'm not that familiar with the Rokon and totally unfamiliar with the tote goat. Don't know what the maintenance, how difficult it is, or things like that. And I say I'm just terrible at balancing, but I bet you I could make a Rokon go over a medium trail if I had to. Yeah, they're pretty good. I say I've actually spent a couple days with them on this one project, and it was pretty interesting. They both seem like nice guys, you know. They both seem quite competent, and to the person, was it Skylar? Somebody was asking about metal detectors. I Break for Bedrock has one directly comparing the Gold Monster against the Gold Bug 2. And Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, he's got several videos on how to run detectors and how to get the most out of them and stuff like that. So I'd review those. I would go for one that's comfortable. Let's say either one of the Gold Bug 2 or the Gold Monster, pretty comfortable. A Minelab 4000 is a pain in the butt. You got to carry a backpack, and it's quite complex. Now, there's a reason for that. It's designed to work in some very, very difficult soils, but you pay for complexity, you know? Hello, Robert, Mr. Greenfingers. Yeah, they also are not cheap. And how do you like it, Blind Dude? Is that a current model, or was that before the Gold Bug 2? I think they make the Gold Bug Pro also right now, and I've heard good things about those. And I see Shogun there is saying he loves his Gold Bug 2 except in highly mineralized grounds. So that's why you have to know what it is you're going to be applying it to. Because without knowing that, it's going to be late before I go to bed, Roberts. Yeah, we had to get Eva to Missoula for an appointment at 3:15 local time, and then another, it's a 120-mile trip, and weather was not ideal. Luckily, the roads were in pretty good shape, so we got back about 45 minutes before the stream, but we would have been late for a 6 o'clock start. There you go, Blind Dude. I'm not a detector expert. I'll let you know that right now. Roberts seems to know more about it. And again, this is why just find a club and try a couple of them. It's sometimes there's just certain features that will annoy you or that you'll love or something like that. And you don't want to spend $1,000 for, a Gold Monster and then a month later pick up a Gold Bug 2 and go, wow, I wish I'd have bought this. That's, not what you want to do. And again, see how everyone's coming up with different details. That's why you have to know what's the application. Skylar, if you just moved to Kingman, a prospecting club will be invaluable information source for local stuff. Spend a couple of monthly meetings with them and you'll learn more than you could research in a year. And also you'll find places where you can actually go, and have permission to get gold. Yeah, I found a lot of those too. Never found any gold with a detector, but found lots of bullets and casings. Okay, so John says the Minelab Equinox is a great detector, but it's complicated. You got to learn how to use it. Jeff apparently really knows his detectors. If you're in the right spot, there is a lot of gold. Very few right spots. And that's the thing. Once you found the spot, everything else is easy. That's not a bad idea. Smoking says get an inexpensive but decent machine to try out. See if you like detecting. I don't like detecting. I get really tired of picking up trash. And then also remember when you're picking up trash, have like a bag, like a nail bag that, what do you call them? Framing carpenters have. So you can just throw the stuff in there. In many cases, Jeff, you're right. Your pen will pick up a lot smaller gold than a metal detector will. I wouldn't say micro gold, Shogun. It picks up some fine stuff. I saw it pick up a wire from a wire brush about this long, and it was a fine wire brush, kind of like the toothbrush-sized wire brushes, a single bristle. It found it. And that, he wasn't trying to demonstrate. It was just he had a target and dug it up, and that's what it was. What's the best detector for salt water hunting? I presume this means where you can get it wet too. Really, Robert? You and Eva should get together sometime.
What?
Trust me.
What?
Robert says, I don't use a metal detector. I'm one of those weirdos who feels the energy of everything.
Robert! Cool!
Yeah, if you're ever up here, make sure you get us a call. She would love to talk to you.
You can come out to the mine and see how you do in solid rock.
Yep. She seems to be okay. And we're hoping that continues to be the case. Aside from that, she's feeling all right. Yeah, he was kind of unusual in some ways.
No. Are you casting asparagus at me again? Poker
face, in general, forever. Because right now, the federal government is not issuing permits that I know of. Okay. Matter of fact, they've canceled big permits to big mines.
They've gotten ridiculous.
They basically, they're just, well, we got to have this little old grandma in Washington, D.C. go through the paperwork, and she's only there, Friday afternoon. So it's going to take her a while to get through 300,000 permits. Yeah, your best bet is, if you can do it legally, is just keep it under the requirements for a permit. Find out what your field office says is casual use. And if you can do what you need to do in the casual use category, go for it. Okay. Yeah, Trevor, basically nationwide as far as I know. Has anyone seen any exception to that in the last 6 months? Has anyone put in a permit in the last 6 months that's been approved? Or know anyone that has? I used to work at the Goldfields mine in Mesquite, California there, and also the Chemgold Picacho mine. That would now be the Glamis Gold Picacho mine. I left there just about, I don't know, 6-12 months before they opened up the Yellow Aster mine, another old discovery. Your club got yours. And what is your club doing, and where is it doing it, and what agency did it get it from? David, if you can tell me. Yeah, it was a pretty good sized mine. I think it was 300,000 ounces a year. Picacho, we had 3,000 ounces a month. That was the first mine that Glamis actually did that made any money. The funny thing is they had the original deal with the guy that had the Goldfields Mesquite property, which is by Glamis, and ongoing claims though. Okay, so did you already have permits? I'm not talking about filing claim forms. I'm talking about permits, a notice of intent, or a plan of operations. Yeah, they were pretty cool. I used to live in Yuma, so I liked the Yuma sand dunes down there on Interstate 8 because they were much closer. And I mean, that's a good mine, Skylar. You know. Yes. Is it A or B? Yes. Okay, David. Was it just renewing permits? I'm not permits, but claims, or was it a plan of operation or a notice of intent? That's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm having a lot more fun. I don't deal well with bureaucracies. I also don't deal well with people I feel are not properly motivated, you know. I was wondering if anyone noticed a cross on the inside of them. Yeah. I say if it's just renewing claims, that's a different thing. That's not a permit. That's simply your annual paperwork, and yeah,
that's not going very fast either.
That's going slow, but they are accepting them and taking your money for them. But in terms of actually getting a plan of operations, I haven't heard of one. I think the Spaniards used to do that a lot too, Robert. Yeah, see this is yes, they're accepting new claim forms. They're accepting the renewal forms for old claims and the fees that go along with these things. But I'm unaware of anyone that has had a notice of intent approved or a plan of operations approved in the last 6 months or so.
And some people have been waiting years for them.
Skylar, it's not new claims. It's permission to operate on more than a casual level on those claims. There's something called casual use, which amazingly enough has no specific definition. It basically says no significant disturbance without the law ever defining what a significant disturbance is. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. Desert dog. The thing is, every field office has its own definition. Years ago in Tucson, it was no engines over 5 horsepower, no mobile earth moving equipment, no explosives, no chemicals, and no disturbance over 2 acres. Well, that was pretty good. That's pretty lenient. Now it's usually a whole lot less than that. And so actually, John, no mobile earth moving equipment. And we just got a notification from BLM this year clarifying that basically and said, no. Okay. And so, as I say, they're trying to regulate into non-existence to a great extent, it appears to me. But this is why you can stake a claim, you can file your claim, but you should be able to use a hand shovel, but in many cases, you're supposed to refill your hole once you're done with it. Yeah. Chris, do you know, is there any restrictions on using just a regular number 2 Mexican drag line in California? It's hard to tell, Robert. The Spanish priests were all over the place. They might have been doing stuff. The Indians might have been kind of imitating them or something like that. And so it's kind of hard to tell. I'm certainly no expert on the subject, but yeah, there are crosses running around. I've seen them carved into rock also. Hands and pans only, huh? Jeez. Uh, um, Desert Dog, the trenches that you see, are they like a series of windrows, or are they actual trenches with square sides? Because I left there years before they ended, but I did go back there a while ago and saw some stuff. Yeah, it's a good place to start, Poker Face, because I think the regulatory environment may be changing shortly too. If these ridges looked like windrows or little piles in series of windrows, okay, that's probably the top of the heap leach. Okay. If it's got like a mesa with kind of ridge top, sloped sides, then that was a heap leach where the sprinklers were on top, sprinkling the ridges and letting the solution soak in. Okay. Look, Pat, I got my own. So Jim's not here for some reason. I'm ready anyway. Unless you're a government official, John. Casual is whatever they say it is. Mine aren't Crayola. Mine are the ones with organic solvents in them. That's right. Dry erase stuff. So that's the say. It's my personal opinion. Don't take this as legal or or regulatory advice. That the best thing you can do right now is stay as low a profile as you can legally do. Because right now the regulatory environment is hostile to us. If they don't know you're there, well, they won't care as long as you don't do anything wrong.
And check all your claim stakes and make sure they're still there and marked. Environmentalists have been out removing claim stakes.
Okay. I don't know if they heard that. Eva says environmentalists have actually been going out there and plucking claim stakes out of the ground in order to try and invalidate claims because they're unpleasant persons at times.
And stealing paperwork.
Jeffrey Allen says, yep. Okay, everyone heard you. That's good. Okay, I know what you can pick up then. Yeah, it's Jerry Pournelle wrote a science fiction book, probably in the 80s, about the eco-terrorists. He was pretty good at seeing into the future. Yes, I prefer to be out of sight and out of mind, Randy. Absolutely. Had your papers taken last year? Yep. Yeah, you need to double check that stuff. And also, if you have an option, don't put your claim stakes up on top of a ridge, standing up there all by themselves. Far side of the ridge behind a bush. Much safer. And I have done that in a number of cases. You know, look around And is there a spot that's not visible, especially from the road? And put the stake there. Say, out of sight, out of mind. If nobody can see it, nobody's going to mess with it. Okay. And another thing is, well, it's really nice to have highly visible stakes. That makes them highly visible. So perhaps if you can have a stake that is a little more blendy to the background color, that might make it easier to deal with. I haven't. I know Chris Georgie has. I'm sure other people have. Um, we only had one incident at Montana B where somebody pried off a plank so they could get into the lower decline. We found absolutely nothing else disturbed. Wait, was that screen moved?
The screen was moved.
And the screen was moved. Yep. Hey, Coulter, how's it going? Probably more than your mine is worth, John. Just a guess. Sad thing is, if you were to get one right now, would you sell it to the U.S. government? I don't think so. Yeah, too bad you can't set up booby traps, huh, Chris? Okay, Coulter. I'll start dealing when I get with it. Skylar, what's new with me? Well, first of all, Mining Magnets there is sending me some concentrates. I'm going to try to ascertain how much really fine gold might be in them still. These are being thrown away at a mine, but he believes there's significant amounts of gold and possibly platinum in them. And one of the problems with the placer concentrate is kind of by definition, these are not the smallest particles. I can recover in my gravity equipment down to about 500 mesh with pretty good recoveries. Then it gets worse. You might only be able to recover down to 100 mesh. So if these people are throwing away coarser gold, then it can be very difficult to assay because an assay uses a small sample. And you may have a chunk of gold over here and take a whole bunch of small samples and it doesn't do any good. No, she has not, Glenn. And the that's called the nugget effect. So the way you deal with that is you use a much larger sample. And so, yeah, or the other way around where you get a huge gold. Exactly. When it's coarse gold particles, you can't get an accurate assay. You're either going to get very little or way too much. The stats won't work. So use a much bigger sample. So this stuff that Coulter is sending me, I'm planning to use like 1 kilogram samples in a bottle roll for several days using the Eco Gold X. And then I'll just take the solution and take it to the lab and have them analyze that. And another advantage to that is that for gold, the ICP on the solution is $25 instead of $45 for a fire assay. So not too bad. Yeah, Jeff. He says, so he did not get back to me, so he thought he'd have to refile, but some bushwhacker claim jumped me, so I lost 20 acres. Did you have the paperwork filed at the county recorder's office first? And this is another good reason, if you can, it's nice to go to the BLM office, hand them the papers, have them record them, stamp your copy, and hand it back to you. This way you have absolute proof of when you got the paperwork in. But that is a problem, and Jeff is correct there. Theoretically, as long as your paperwork, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but as long as his paperwork got to BLM in the appropriate time period, the critical time is the time it was recorded at the county courthouse. Double check me on that, Chris. Let's see. You handed them to them, and did you physically wait for them to copy them and hand you back your stamped copies, Jeff? That's, say, it's really sad, but that's the way things work sometimes. I don't believe in the Anunnaki, Robert, but I'm willing to discuss anything. No, you may be right, you may be wrong. You don't have to be crazy to have unusual beliefs. The question is, are you rational enough to look at information that may tend to disprove your beliefs objectively? If so, then research should lead you to the truth eventually. I have come to the conclusion that there's certain weird stuff that goes on out there. I just don't know much about it. If somebody can consistently do stuff that I can't explain, then I accept they can do something and I have no idea how they're doing it without having to know. Oh, yeah. That can happen, Kodak. Yeah, if you make mistakes, then you can have problems. Hey, Tricky, how's it going? And thank you for the research and the information. Tricky's been doing more research on extracting the gold from the resin. And I will go ahead and explain that a little more later once things calm down. We've got a lot of stuff we're dealing with right now. So, Chris, do you think our best bet right now is still the fluxing? And then if that doesn't work, we'll go to electrolytic elution. Ooh, what would be the best books I'd recommend for a first-time gold prospector? I presume Placer. The question is, what size placer? Are you looking for professional, personal use, things like that? I think we can probably do it, Chris. We might have to put some kind of collector in them to essentially scrub them in the flux, but that would be nice. Okay, so David and Trevor suggest Chris Rouse, Fistful of Gold. Chris seems to be a pretty smart character. Okay, yeah, Chris Ralph would probably be about what you're looking at then. If you ever get up to professional grade stuff, I have a book here. I'll, just ask me then if you're got like a big placer you're looking at evaluating. I got the book for you there. Well, the other thing, Chris, is the electrochemical we use very simple and safe and inexpensive chemicals that are easily reusable. And say we may, maybe that the nice thing about fluxing is almost everyone has a furnace. If they got a gold mine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can too, Tricky. Say Chris is pretty smart. You're pretty smart. You're really good at the research there. So's Chris. And we'll play games. I've got enough resin to play some games with this winter. Yeah. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, I see we got 40 tonight. That may be a new record, but it's certainly close to it. The project I'm currently working on, what I call Montana B, has extremely fine gold. 80% smaller of it is smaller than 2000 mesh. And that means gravity separations don't work. It means amalgamation won't work. It means flotation won't work. But it does, in fact, dissolve really well. The problem is the chemicals involved, the chemical systems get a little bit complicated, and actually mine's more tapping, blind dude. But anyhow, so we're dealing with a relatively new, very low toxicity solution that uses a thiosulfate base rather than a cyanide base. Cyanide's illegal in Montana. It dissolves the gold quite rapidly, roughly 90% in 24 hours of agitated leaching when it's ground finely. And so the gold goes into solution quite easily. Then we're having trouble getting it out of solution. We were trying electroplating directly from solution. There were some issues there. It just didn't work. So then we went to what's known as resin adsorption. Now, this is some of the resin in a bag. This is called ion exchange resin. There's different kinds. And basically what this is, you can see it there, it's real small little beads. They're little plastic beads. How fine do I grind it? The small stuff's pretty darn small, but I haven't done a full screening test on it because I was just getting what my grinder would do, but it's something on the order of 90% passing, 60 mesh. Yep. Julie, it depends on what you're using. There's a difference between fine gold, microfine gold, and ridiculously fine gold. Currently, I'm doing ridiculously fine gold. My gravity separation technique will recover microfine gold down to about 500 mesh. This stuff, again, at 2000 mesh minus, you can't even see it unless you got a good microscope. But anyhow, so it does dissolve well. And I'm not selling samples for dollars to refiners or glaziers. You can sell concentrates. But anyhow, yeah, exactly, Skylar. And you were probably using cyanide dissolution and carbon adsorption. The resin takes the place of the carbon. This resin here that Chris came up with worked really good. If you have a cartridge this big filled with this resin, and you pump the solution through it at between 50 and 100 gallons per hour. This will recover over 90% of gold into the first cartridge. Then you run it to the next one and the next one like that. And that's what we did there. Now the loaded resin, this is a cartridge with loaded resin in it. This is some unloaded resin I put in top to top off the cartridge for a reason. But it looks kind of like that. Now the problem is the gold just doesn't come out of that super easy. Yeah, 90% recovery, 1 minute contact time. That's how long it takes the solution to go through that. 1 minute. So anyhow, I took that. Let's see how well this works. Oh, can't see it very well. Do we have another light somewhere? Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, not very well. Damn it. Do we have a light around here, little one?
No.
Okay, let's see what I can do here, folks. Turn this one off, because this looks really cool if I could get you to see it. See how red that is? It's like little pigeon blood rubies in there. This is dried resin. That's all I did to this batch here was just dry it. And then from there, I tried a couple of fluxes. Now, I was using one of those little, what do you call it? Tabletop furnaces with 2 propane torches. Turn the other light on. You mean that one? Reason we usually turn it off is see the reflection in the thing behind me. And yeah, it did look a little weird, didn't it? Can I hold it back up, please? If I can find it. See, this is the problem is, if I'm not backlighting it, you can't see the color. So those are actually ruby red in there. That light is flickering. Oh man, it's driving you crazy. Let's see what happens here. I'm pretty sure I can get this one to work. There, how's that? Is everyone happy?
Well, you can always point that desk lamp at the ceiling.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let me see if I had a flashlight handy. Yeah, it figures. Come on.
What about that?
It's the switch. Come on. Yeah, I don't have any flashlight in here, unfortunately. Man, it'd be nice if this little light would work. Oh, I got one that may work. Let's try this. Little pen light. Let's see if this will do it. Let me turn this one off just for a second. There we go. That'll give you an idea how red that is. So anyhow, that is the dried resin. And I tried using a little tabletop furnace with, the 2 propane torches. I couldn't get it hot enough. I even heated the tanks gently for the propane torches to get a lot more heat out of them. Still not, not enough to get the flux as molten as it should have been. So anyhow, this is what it looks like when you just heat it. That's mainly carbon coating you see there. Some of these have been more oxidized than that. Yeah, I agree, Skylar. It's another thing I got to get. Hopefully this this winter I'll get a few things kind of working better. Up till now, I've been trying to get as much as I could at Montana B, get ore stockpiled, and also get as much solution and loaded resin as I could. Yes, Brett, you're absolutely right. The problem is there is no MAP gas in Helena. Home Depot, Lowe's, Power Townsend, Ace, nada. Have an oxyacetylene torch we're going to refill the tanks on probably tomorrow and use that for now. Yeah, blind dude. Probably want to get a better quality one than a $25 one, though. I've got one laying around somewhere, but I lost the software. And so anyhow, what we're hoping to do is create a flux that will break down the resin without allowing the gold to escape. Now, according to the research Tricky Dicky did, the researchers who were trying to oxidize this and were, doing it properly in a lab and everything, it lost up to 40% of the gold depending on how fast they heated it. So what we're hoping to do is say create a flux that will oxidize it in place so the carbon doesn't have to go anywhere, and that will capture any volatile gold that's being released that way, and then smelt it down. We may have to use a collector in it like you do in a standard fire assay. We're going to try it without first, because if we can do it without it, it's a lot simpler if we don't have to Q-pel it, But so that's that's our plan at this point. Yes, Trevor, lead. There are also other collector metals. I believe copper, for example, is. But yeah, we're looking at that. Unfortunately, all this disruption of the supply chain has also disrupted my finance chain. So I have to be more cautious and restrained in my expenditures right now. I don't know, John. All I know is there's not a single MAP gas cylinder in town for sale as a cylinder. There are a couple of MAP gas torches with cylinders in the kit in town, as in like 4 all totaled. Judicious, yes, that's a good word. I say I'm not sure what the best one would be. Chris is a better chemist than I am, especially on the theoretical end. So he's doing a lot of the theoretical analysis and then throwing stuff at me, and then I go give it a try, see what happens, consult with him, and then we kind of try and tweak it in. But I have enough loaded resin. Oh, yeah, one of them's leaking a little bit. One of those is leaking. I'll have to drain that bucket tomorrow. But here's about 200 grams of loaded dried resin. So, assuming we're only doing 1 gram per test, I got like 200 tests I can pull. as far as I can tell, using the numbers of the concentration of the solution into that cartridge, the concentration of the solution out, and the volume of solution, this should be running almost 11% gold here. So that's should be easy to measure a tenth of a gram of recovered metal. Yeah, you could use an oxygen generator to go oxypropane probably. Yeah. Oh, I don't even know if I'm sitting. It's not my fortune. I'm working for someone who has the claim, and I just have to be judicious in how I apply the money, and there should be sufficient to make it happen if we have good enough grade and tonnage there. Right now, the grade that we're sinking that decline through is running, somewhere around half an ounce to the ton. So that's a reasonable material to be testing with. We hope that the grade will go up deeper. As we go deeper, the chip samples were better grade, so we'll see. Skylar, you said 90% recovery rate. What is that recovery rate being applied to? I was getting 90% recovery from solution into the resin. And now we want to I wouldn't be very happy with anything less than about a 95% recovery from the resin, because we should be able to do at least that with an electrolytic elution setup. But if we can get, 97% recovery with just fluxing and furnacing, that should be okay. And Skylar, he's the brains behind the operation. Chris is a lot of the brains. Okay. I've got different brains. We complement each other. I'm also on site, which is awfully hard to beat. Chris isn't free to just go anywhere he wants for as long as he wants. And I've got a fair amount of experience actually moving and breaking rock. So that comes in handy. I'd say it's a real nice synergy. Also, say Tricky Dicky and oh gosh, from Australia, not Rick Jobling, the other guy, Pat. No, not Pat. Anyhow, we have another gentleman from Australia that's done a lot of research on this too. No, blind dude, you don't want to get too much attention. I think that if we were to use lead, we could probably get good recoveries. It's an additional step I'd prefer to avoid if we can. Not only is there always a loss, but it costs time and money to do a step. If we can go to a direct smelt from resin directly to doré, it's awfully hard to beat that in terms of efficiency. Not Patrick Jobling, Ned, Gruber Ned Jardine. He did a lot of research too. Well, yeah, the southern border is wide open, David. This phrase was aliens among us. But anyhow, So that's what we're trying to do. It's a very, very simple system if we can get it to work. In the long run, if we had lots of volume, especially if we can regenerate the resin to where it's somewhere near as effective as it was originally, that might be even better. But for the small scale we're looking at now, yeah. Bismuth is, again, I'm listening to Chris on this one right now. Sure, Tricky. If you wanted detailed plans, I can provide that too for a nominal fee. Yeah, the old white gas stuff, or are you talking the gasoline torches and it sets down on thing? Yeah, they probably were dangerous. I would guess. They had maintenance that the propane torches don't have, and yeah, you had to keep a fuel and it would get dirty. You'd have to clean it, stuff like that. Yeah, that's I'll let Chris kind of work on it. Right now, we're trying to do it without a collector metal. We're just gonna go an oxidizer and a flux to kind of gather everything and stuff, and we may have to in quart something. Um, the ratio of gold to silver in this ore is roughly 1 to 1. And so if you then part your doré by using nitric acid and then precipitate the silver from the acid with a little salt, that silver chloride could theoretically be put back into circuit as a silver in quart. So that would be pretty good. Oh, by the way, we've been having trouble finding silver and stuff recently. We were over in Missoula, and next to the gas station was Missoula Gold and Silver Exchange. Can't see that, can you? But anyhow, they were selling silver at essentially a 1/3 premium, but we bought on the dip for junk silver coins. It was down to like 22 something today. So we were buying junk silver for, I think it was 27 times face value, whatever. And it, you know, it's a little pricey compared to the past. Your premiums were typically 10% or less. But nowadays, that's not the case. So if anyone's looking for some junk silver or just silver and gold coins at reasonable price, not bargain basement, but reasonable prices, Missoula Gold and Silver Exchange on 2020 Brooks Street, Missoula, Montana, does have some. Okay. So anyone in the area that wants to buy some and hasn't been able to find it, I'd say it was a 1/3 premium today. So just information out there. Tricky, I know somewhere I have a book that'll tell me, but what do you have to do to the silver chloride to convert it back to silver? You just throw it in with a flux and the heat decomposes it? That's what I'm thinking, Chris. Yeah, Jeff, I wouldn't be in a rush to sell. I don't see anything long run except going up. you know? Yeah, blind dude, I've been to Silver City. There used to be a organization there called American Society for the Advancement of Technology. Walt Lashley ran it, and he did a lot of interesting stuff there. Okay, thanks, Trevor. But yeah, that's what we're planning to try and do. we can get the gold into the solution pretty darn effectively. We can get the solution, the gold out of solution and into the resin quite effectively. And I'm thinking that last step, if we can just do it pretty effectively, then we'll have a very simple system. And Chris has been very helpful in, getting all this thing worked out. The the resin cartridges, the resin, the filter housings for it and stuff. He's the one who found them and just sent me the links, and I bought them and such. But it seems to work fairly simply, and with our ore. Now, this is another thing, everyone remember, every ore is different. What works well with my ore may not work with a crap with your ore. Always do small scale tests first. That's what the bottle roll is all about. I think it cost me $150 to set up an 8-bottle bottle roll. I can do all kinds of tests really cheap now. Those 2 other samples of resin that Purolite sent me, I basically took a half a gram of each, put it in 1,500 grams of my standardized sample of pregnant solution, ran them for 4 hours like I did the max water. As soon as the lab gets back to me with the results, then they might have done it today while I was at the thing. Let's see. Okay. It looks like Jim is not feeling good, so he's going to stay away tonight so he doesn't get anyone else sick. Why is it doing that? Send. But anyhow, so as I say, I two tests. Took me 4 hours to run them. As soon as the lab gets back with me, I'll have a really good idea whether or not those resins show promise as being better than the max water. The max water is perfectly satisfactory. 1 minute contact time, 90% recovery from the yeah, he's dead, blind dude. Yeah, died, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. So say I'll be able to tell real simply. That's where that bottle roll comes in real handy for a lot of stuff. People are wishing Jim a lot of happy joy. I'm not sure if he's watching right now, but he will later, I'm sure. Yeah, fine gold over Feldslus. What size are you recovering, Bob? I would think you should be able to get down to 300 mesh at least with that. So, let's see. You shot Walt with a BB gun? Oh, wow. He's feeling under the weather here. Probably got the Omicron would be my guess. We're all going to get it. It is that contagious. Luckily, it's not very dangerous. Let's see. Sore throat, headache. It says sore throat and headache. Okay. It could be Omicron. But anyhow, let's see. Yeah, it is. Well, when you get to serious gold prospectors, that thins thing out a bit. One thing about this channel is we do have, hey, gold addicts, we do have serious gold prospectors here. We're not just a bunch of, yeah, that didn't work too well. Man, it's so sensitive. That's not too bad. I'm not sure at this point, Tricky Dicky. I know, okay, secret, just, silver doesn't remain in metallic form for very long. Gold will. That's my answer. How about you, Chris? We're working on a simple test to determine the quantity of gold in solution. Once you've done a number of runs, you got a good idea. The other thing I'm thinking of is perhaps the color will be indicative, and you can simply go by that. Not sure. But yeah, one of the things we're going to try and do this winter is come up with an inexpensive, rapid test for gold. And right now, if I have a good idea how much gold is in solution, I have a good idea how much solution I can pump through it before I need to change out the cartridges. Another thing that may work, if you had, say, 4 cartridges in a row, it may be the color in the last cartridge that'll tell you. When that thing starts getting darker in a hurry, it means enough stuff's getting to it. That would be my guess. Too little experience at this point. Let me look at something though here. Good Lord. Little one, can you go get me a bucket or something off the porch? Cartridge 3.
Working on it.
Cartridge 5.
Hi, everybody.
Cartridge 4. God damn it.
One bucket.
Okay. Okay, so this was the last cartridge in series, and it's still pretty darn dark. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's see, there's cartridge 2. Oh, let me sort through some crap here, folks, real quick to answer the question. There's cartridge 2. So we have the one that's most loaded, and which one is this? 3. No, that's not the one I want. That should be 4. Well, it would be nice if these things would drain at a reasonable speed, so when I try and put them up, they're not still full of water. I'm trying to avoid my thing. So this one here has the least amount of gold in it, and this has the most. I don't see a heck of a lot of difference in color. So that may not be a a useful criterion. Oh, or I'll get this all straightened up there. Oh. Let's see. Well, I say my old technique worked pretty good too, using aqua regia and methyl isobutyl ketone and a capillary tube and a test paper. I could detect in rock down to 1/100th of an ounce per ton and give you a fairly quantitative test. So one thing I'm going to do is take some of the solution and just acidify it. Just take like, equal parts solution and aqua regia and mix them together in a well-ventilated environment. And then contact that with MIBK and evaporate the MIBK over dilute aqua regia. And then, run it through a capillary tube into a test paper and it'll precipitate the gold. So we have not done that lab test, gold miner. It can be done. We have not done it. Again, every number you get costs money, and we're trying to be careful how we spend our money. It doesn't sound like fun to me, Chris. So anyhow, around here we usually have like 20-mile-an-hour winds, so it shouldn't be a problem. Especially if I'm just doing real small quantities. Another possibility is, it seems like the problem is, first of all, you have to create a complex that the test paper will precipitate, and then you need to neutralize any other digestive ability of the lixiviant. Now, we may be able to do that by simply adding silver nitrate and basically binding all the other lixiviant, but I don't know. Delayed onset pulmonary edema, well, that's kind of like nitric oxides too. Yep. So anyhow, so that's basically, we're going to be playing some games and seeing what we can come up with in terms of a relatively simple, straightforward, useful test. Not sure how we're going to get from A to B, but we have lots of different possibilities before we're scratching our heads too much. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't think the MIBK would directly absorb the gold from the solution in the complexes that are there. I know the guy that does the laboratory analysis, he acidifies it, I presume, in a under a hood. Nitric acid will not dissolve metallic gold. Hydrochloric acid can if there's some kind of oxidizing agents there. That you go home, you go to sleep and never wake up. You can get the same thing from the gases from nitrate-based explosives like dynamite underground. You get this really orange stuff, really bad to breathe. As a hydrochloric acid, if there's an oxidizing agent of any kind, it can actually dissolve the gold by turning it into gold chloride. Nitric acid can't do that. But if there's some chloride somehow in there, then it can. And so there's just a number of little details we need to work out. We have lots of time this winter to get it all done, so I'm not terribly worried. That's probably what we should be working on next after getting the gold out of the resin. Get a nice simple benchtop test. We were hoping it would be something as simple as putting stannous chloride in the solution. You know what we could try there, Chris, is use more silver nitrate than necessary, over neutralize it, so to speak, and then put stannous chloride in that, because now the silver nitrate has probably consumed all the lixiviant. So, I say that might be a fairly simple and straightforward way to do it. Because then if you get the stannous chloride to precipitate it, because we know that the silver nitrate binds the lixiviant, because that's the reactant you use in the titration. That might work. Let me write it down.
Solution. There you go, speaking chemistry again.
Plus stannous. That'd be more calorimetric. Yeah, it wouldn't work with the test paper, because the test paper will in fact precipitate silver. Yeah, I don't know. So anyhow, well, is it going to create? Yeah, you might have to add like a little salt or something to precipitate the silver chloride. I don't know. We'll play some games. Stannous chloride will precipitate gold from some solutions. There's also sodium metabisulfite can precipitate it from some solutions. If we can get a solution that's relatively clear, that we can precipitate the gold and won't get redissolved by the solution, then we can either take a look at the color of the solution or do some other tricks that I know to see how much precipitate is there. Well, in order to keep it precipitated, you have to kind of eliminate the ability of the leaching solution to dissolve gold, because once you precipitate it, it'll then just redissolve it. And so that's the ideas. What do we do to get rid of the digestive ability of the leaching solution so then we can test it? That's the evil plan. There's various ways. Another thing is, for example, if you take the leach solution and react it with, Chris suggested hydrochloric acid. If that'll turn the gold in solution into gold chloride, the silver in solution into silver chloride, the silver chloride will precipitate, but you can take the gold chloride, add some methyl isobutyl ketone to the tube, shake it up. The gold chloride goes into the MIBK, and now you can pull it away. Then you evaporate the MIBK, which evaporates kind of like gasoline or anything like that, and do that over some diluted acid that will allow it to react with the test paper. And now you've cleaned it, basically. You've gotten rid of a bunch of other crap that'll get in the way. So say the methyl isobutyl ketone is a solvent that is very selective for grabbing the gold chloride ion. So that might work out well too. I don't know. We'll work on it. We get it working, we'll let you guys know. It's 8:30, little one. This would be your normal time if you want to. Exactly, Chris.
Give me about 5 minutes here.
Okay, 5 minutes. I don't know, Tricky. So say it's the sort of thing. There may be alternatives. I don't know. I know that's the standard laboratory method, but say we got lots of possibilities. So we want to do the simplest, the cheapest, the safest way of doing it. And say the nice thing about neutralizing with silver nitrate is that it, can we might also be able to use some sort of just a metal. Zinc would tend to precipitate the gold, but it would also consume the lixiviant. Maybe there's something we can throw in there that won't precipitate the gold, but will nevertheless consume the lixiviant. Or maybe we can do adjust the pH or something like that, so that again it'll break down into something safe. Don't know. We got lots of things to try. Thank you, Tricky. You've been a lot of help already. So as you folks can see, we just got a whole bunch of things to try out. Let's see, what's this? Open link in new tab. Okay, let's see what he just sent me. One-step synthesis of methyl isobutyl ketone via catalytic distillation for the selective hydrogenation of mycethyl oxide. Well, perhaps he can't get mycethyl oxide either. I don't know. Hi, Terry. So anyhow, as you folks can see, we got a lot to keep us busy here over the winter, and that doesn't even get into increasing the capacity of the milling system and things like that. Yeah, I would think. I know I didn't have problem finding methyl isobutyl ketone. So we shall see. Yeah, say, got to build a bigger mill, bunch of other stuff, loads of stuff to keep me busy, including repair and maintenance. The eye seems to be healing okay, because Eva had this appointment today. I'll get the other eye done on December 23rd. And hopefully in a week or so, I'll be able to drive and back up to speed and everything else. We'll see what happens. Eva can just take care of me for a change. I'll need so much attention. But so those are some of the things we're working on. Need a video? Well, I can sell you a set of plans with thorough instructions on building the mill, Shogun. It's $100 for a set of plans. And
gotta go to the bathroom.
Let's see.
I'll be ready.
think this is a set right here, if I'm not mistaken. Come on. Get off of there. See? And let's see. Can you even see anything? Step-by-step instructions on how to build it. Oh, for the eyes? They didn't give me these things. I could tell you what they were, but I can't read the little writing on them. I know one is a steroid and an antibiotic. The other is an NSAID. The other one's just official tears. And got a little bit of, you might be able to see it, redness there. And so they're keeping a closer eye on it than they normally would. But I mean, like, I was just the optometrist this morning, and it's like, no, everything looks like it's going okay. It's just kind of noticeable. And here she is, the goddess herself.
Hello, everybody. Gonna be very, very short and sweet tonight since we were on the road and I did not have time to look anything up. If any of you are planning on dying in the future or have somebody unfortunately die on you in the immediate future, just so you know, there is now a shortage of material to make headstones and a shortage of coffins and a shortage of the materials that go into making coffins. Mortuaries around the country are dealing with very, very annoyed customers. However, Walmart and Costco are coming to your rescue because if you need coffins, you can get them on Walmart and Costco. Not only are they cheaper than at your local mortuaries, they arrive a lot faster. I find this to be rather bizarre because I didn't know you could buy a coffin online at Walmart, but apparently you can. I was on the front page of the internet and people were discussing cheap coffins in light of the shortages. And people are like, yeah, I saved $2,500 on my grandmother's coffin. And it actually arrived on schedule.
I wonder if a UBC would work.
Yeah, I know. From China. That's the only problem with this stuff, you know? And yes, pine box and a rock. Getting onto the pine box thing, it turns out that in most parts of the country, you actually don't even have to be buried in a coffin. You can still be buried the old-fashioned way, or you can be buried in a homemade pine box. Check your local regulations for this. I personally am a fan of cremation, but, you know, that's just that, you know. And Bear, Tricky just sent you an email with his furnace in it. And yes, give the parts to the university and burn the rest. I am listed for organ donation, though I doubt they'll use my organs now after this recent cancer thing that's going on. And, you know, I'm down for organ cremation. I'm down for donating my body to science and, you know, etc. Yep, that's true, Shogun. They do. The thing about Walmart, though, just to warn you people, when you're looking at Walmart's online site, pay very close attention to who you're buying it from because Walmart, like Amazon, has opened themselves up to all sorts of third-party retailers. And a lot of times they will have some crazy, crazy prices. We're talking ridiculous prices. And a lot of them are a little bit shady. They're not quite as bad as Amazon yet. I will give them that. And Amazon apparently reached a new low with that whole tornado thing that happened the other day. You may or may not have heard the tornadoes, which, by the way, are due to climate change and will be cured instantly if we pass the Build Back Better plan, according to the Malarkey administration, decided to level an Amazon facility. Now, this apparently resulted in quite a few casualties, deaths, etc. And not only did Amazon completely not make an announcement about this for some time, though, why you be making an announcement at 3 in the morning, nobody can figure out either. But then Bezos came out and, of course, was touting his whole space thing. Well, fine, great, and wonderful. There are now stories circulating on the internet that have actually been reported by a few members of the media that, of course, Walmart had known, not Walmart, Amazon had known that a tornado was headed their way a couple of days in advance. Like everybody knew these storms 24 hours in advance could very well make tornadoes. Amazon had also heard the tornado warnings. There are now horrible rumors floating around that the Amazon facility heard the tornado warnings and told their employees, if you leave or try to seek shelter, you will be fired. Now, this would not surprise me, okay? This really would not surprise me. We're talking Amazon, possibly one of the most exploitative companies to work for in the history of the United States. But even for them, that is really, really bizarre, creepy, and if true, beyond disgusting. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Yeah, Shogun, one has to wonder because the whole concept that these tornadoes were caused by climate change is a little bit of a reach. The whole concept that if we had already passed the big Build Back Better business, the tornadoes might not have happened is even more of a reach. The idea that passing that bill might curtail future tornadoes is quite frankly delusional, but then again, much of our federal government is delusional at the moment. So it turns out that the CBO had the unhappy and rather problematic duty of informing our beloved Congress critters that they had finished their assessment of this train wreck of a bill and it ain't going to be free. Now, bear in mind, Madam Pelosi said that if this bill wasn't free, and everybody else who said they were stepping in the way of this bill said that if the bill wasn't free, they would eat their hats and they would not even try to pass it. Well, the CBO turned in their report, and apparently it's going to create a deficit. It's going to just a little deficit, apparently something around $500 billion, pocket change, a simple rounding error on Pentagon scale anyway. Well, now the word out of Washington is naturally the CBO is full of crap. They're using outdated standards, and they're failing to take into account the fact that this will save the planet. So they're going to try to pass it anyway. What else is new? It would not surprise me, Shogun, if you could. I mean,
Which?
Change the path of a hurricane by warming up a spot next to it 5 degrees. It would not surprise me. It really wouldn't. A lot of things would not at this point. So Trevor has a question for you, Bear.
Okay.
What are the constituent parts of the mill, Keith?
Basically, I built all this out of just 1/4-inch plate, although T1 steel is going to last you a lot longer. A single 4x8 sheet can be cut into all of these pieces and then welded together, creating the housing, the cover plate, and the rotor plates and all that stuff. You're going to need some bearings, pulleys, a piece of 6-inch channel iron, a little bit of tubing for legs, And expanded metal for a belt guard. Although you could do that with sheet metal too.
I am looking at him with rapt attention right now, people.
Oh,
Yeah, Chris, 5 degrees is a lot of delta T, depending on how big a 5-degree area you would need.
no, I don't know, 100 cubic miles or something.
Yeah.
A few thermonuclear weapons will do it.
Well, that is a possibility. And speaking of thermonuclear weapons, this has nothing to do with them. Apparently, the grid in New England may experience rolling blackout problems this winter if there are severe cold snaps because of the shortage of natural gas. The shortage of natural gas, among other things, is also going to result in a massive shortage of fertilizer that is worldwide and is predicted to last for the next 18 months. So, yeah, the price of food is going to go up again. But take heart, people. We now know that inflation is good for us. 4% inflation is even better for us. We're only at 6.8% inflation now, which is marvelous. Isn't that marvelous? And so far, the stock market is continuing to be completely out of touch with reality. A lot of people are getting nervous about that because it's not making sense. A lot of things are not making sense right now, but then again, what else is new at this point?
Inflation, huh? That is $200 worth of silver change.
Yeah.
In case you were curious what inflation does.
Speaking of which, we saw some beautiful coins at that coin shop today. Ooh, so pretty. There was a complete collection of very nice Morgan silver dollars in a wooden case. Only $800. Oh, just a nice collection from the mints of I think it was about 15 Morgans, 20 Morgans. Really pretty. Trevor, shipping time.
Well, for the plans, it's not that much in terms of parts. I took it to a local plasma cutter and had him cut them. A lot of the parts could be cut simply out of, well, if you wanted an 8-inch mill, 8-inch strap, cross cut at the right spots will give you the housing and things like that. The first mill I made, I just basically used a chop saw, a torch, and a grinder.
Yeah, basically hand tools. I mean, I was shocked personally. Well, actually, I won't say I was shocked. I was impressed because Professor Hardrock here is really good at MacGyvering things that people can make in their garage with basic tools that you either already own or can rent for like $20 a day. It's bizarre and fascinating. Don't know how the heck he gets it. Yeah, carbon taxes would disable tornadoes, I am sure. I mean,
makes sense.
We all know that converting to electric cars, which our Department of Transportation head has told us that all of us, even the poorest, can go out and buy an electric car as long as it's not a Tesla. Converting to electric cars is going to save the planet anyway. Yeah, we're not going to go there either.
They never tell us how they're going to charge them, but okay.
But currently, as it stands, our personal household inflation, we all know that the government is now saying inflation is at 6.8%. We also know that anyone who has been to the grocery store lately knows that figure is a bunch of malarkey. It comes from lying dog-faced pony soldiers.
Isn't it a crock of malarkey?
Unquestionably. Yeah, it's a crock of malarkey. So, I took a look at our personal bills and I did the math. And I discovered that our personal CPI at the moment is running between 15 and 17% on average, other than the volatile energy sector, which is our gasoline. The volatile energy sector is up 35% this year. So, yeah. 14 pounds, $65 for a turkey. Yikes. Ouch. That hurts. But Professor Hardrock managed to get us a whole bunch of 98 cent a pound boneless pork butt this week, butt roasts, and so we canned that up. This would be a good time to consider stocking up on meats, because between the current ongoing grain shortages and the fertilizer shortages of several different types, while livestock feed is made primarily of the parts of grain and parts of plants that cannot be eaten by people, they're still growing these things for people. They're still growing soybeans to make soybean oil. They're still growing various other things for people. And with the fertilizer prices I'm seeing are already almost double what they were last year. They're still going up. And a lot of people I've talked to say that their spring orders, their suppliers for their spring fertilizer are like, we don't know if we'll be able to accommodate you this year. This is not good news for our wonderful monoculture and chemically assisted growing that goes on in most of the country. So, this would be a good time to go and look up a site called eatwild.org. Eat Wild lists regenerative agriculture and permaculture farms and organic farms and ranches, etc., around the United States. And I believe they might also be expanding into Canada here. So this is a good way to find growers of food in your area, if you're not growing food yourself, that are not overly reliant or not reliant at all on chemical fertilizers and monoculture to produce food. Because food coming from far away is going to be a problem. Food coming from monoculture crops that are being grown with chemical fertilizers is going to be pricey. So it's a good time to start looking for local, And yeah, Terry, I have seen some pretty bare shelves of late here and there. Not store wide, but more and more things are becoming obvious. Like you go into Walmart and they had all their cheese spread out in the cheese section. So a lot of it wasn't even in front of its own price tags. It was spread out to make the cabinets look full, but the selection of products was about 1/3 what it usually is, and the stock level was about half what it usually is. Another thing that's going on here and there, primarily in the Midwest, but some in the southeastern part of the country, is people are getting gallons of milk that say they're good for 7 days, and they're coming up sour 2 days later. This is happening with other dairy products as well. The theory that we're working on this point is that somewhere through the chain, these dairy products were out of refrigeration for a lot longer than they should have been. That is the current operating theory as to how this happens. We don't think they came from the dairies in that condition, but somewhere between dairy and the time people pulled it out of the cabinet, they got into that condition.
Now, Chris, one of the problems is we have a very small freezer here, but instead we use Meals Ready to Eat 1800s edition.
Well, let me put it this way. Professor Hard Rock is all worried about the small freezer. Yours truly knows that as soon as we get 10 days in a row where the weather is below 38 degrees on that porch, we can use our coolers as cold boxes, because my grandmother used to store most of her frozen food in cold boxes on the porch in Maine. So, yeah, we're going to be cold boxing things. But it is interesting to note that I'm not quite sure how to put this. It is interesting to note that more and more people are beginning to wonder whether the government is mistaken about how high the inflation is. people are actually beginning to question the government's figures. I find that interesting, which is a good thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
That does not surprise me, Shogun. I have heard some stories from truckers of late. That's when they can get fuel. A lot of our truck stops here in the Midwest and points east, slightly east of us, are still rationing diesel fuel for the 18-wheelers.
That just sounds so crazy, Shogun. Why would they do that? The driver has no responsibility for.
Yeah. Well, a lot of
that.
times, trucking companies lately have gone to, you pay for X and Y and we will reimburse you in your paycheck. And it's like, wow. Yeah, Terry. I mean, really, on the matter of buying toys and stuff, there have been a couple of people that reported online they wanted to buy local. And in one area, they had a nice puzzle store that was locally owned. And the people that went to buy puzzles for their kids were like, the store is closed for the next week and a half. It will open just before Christmas with a stock of puzzles because they had 0 puzzles left.
Well, there was a billboard up there for Adam and Eve. They sell toys.
Bear. Bad bear. Yeah, David, I think dazed and confused is probably the most polite way to put how they want us.
And
you know,
not working together.
And not working together.
They want us divided.
They want us at each other's throats. But anyway, there's not much else that I can talk about tonight because I took time off from doing research. We were on the road all day, and I had my Five Guys burgers.
She was also looking at the road ahead of us.
Yep.
She's got better eyes and...
Yeah, Shogun, there are some shady companies out there right now. There's all kinds of shady going on all over the place right now. We may never figure out everything.
That would explain it, though.
But anyway, keep buying food while you can still afford it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Oh. Now that is something, Shogun. Making the drivers pay for the fuel for the reefers. Well, that would cause them to go, yeah, genius. Absolute genius.
Nothing would surprise me anymore.
Thinking is apparently a lost art. Okay, so anyhow, does anyone else have a good question here? Like we started out this morning with, that worked out really well. Has anyone seen one trailers running around? You mean a single trailer behind a truck? We saw a few today, but then the weather was pretty sucky. It would have been risky to pull, riskier than usual to pull multiple trailers. We did see multiple trailers today, too.
Yeah, we saw some doubles. We saw some singles, but as always around here, the ratio of passenger cars to big rigs on the road was not right. We're still seeing a lot fewer big rigs on the road than we should.
I'm not having any problems, Terry. I'm staying fairly busy. The winter isn't so much the problem as just the hours of darkness that I have to fill up with doing something. Although my body has started sleeping longer hours too to help compensate, I guess. Temperature wise, not a problem. Emotionally, not a problem. As you've heard today, we got lots of things happening. One of my frustrations is I can't get stuff in quick enough because I can't just go out there. Looking for trailers with a pink trailer with a white one painted on it, or a white trailer with a pink one on it.
Haven't seen any.
I don't recall seeing any. Yeah, Trevor, sounds about right. And we should all be considering the ramifications of that, both for our personal lives and how does that affect the metals prices and such. Um, I think it's being suppressed, and when it finally busts loose, it's going to go pretty good.
When the stock market crashes, things will get great.
Okay, Glenn, how does the water table factor into gold deposits? Hey, I've got a whiteboard, and I have pens if I can get them out of it. Oh. Wow, this is so cool. I've got my own pens and stuff. Where does that go? Okay. So, now, what happens? Let me do something with these here. See that? And this, maybe that. Suppose you start with some ground here, and you have a magma chamber in here. Okay. Now, there's two things that matters, and if here's your water table, I'll get to that in just a minute about the impact crusher. In this case here, the magma is heating the water, causing it to form convection currents, bringing more water in here. And when it's hot enough, under high enough pressure, this area here, it can dissolve the gold out of it. Well, it can dissolve a lot of minerals out of it. If this chamber here is 5 miles across, you can see it can dissolve the minerals out of a pretty big volume of rock. And as this water moves around, it's typically going mostly through cracks. So as it gets out here and starts cooling off, it starts precipitating minerals. And these form the veins, the little veinlets, and sometimes disseminated deposits. This would be your primary enrichment. This is where it takes large volumes of rock, dissolves valuable minerals, and puts them into much smaller volumes of rock. Now, later on, and I'll just split it right here, later on you have an area, and say you've got these veins in it. Okay? And these have minerals in them. Typically, it's going to be kind of broken because veins form where there's already fractures, and new fractures form where old fractures did, as a general rule. As rain falls down upon this, the rain falls, rain, rain, okay. And the water starts percolating downward. Now, this is called meteoric water. And this is groundwater. Well, actually, this is the aquifer here. And this is the water table. Now, chemistry changes a lot right here. That's because this rock here has some airspace in it, so it has air. Most notably, it has oxygen, which is actually a very reactive gas. It's the second most reactive gas next to fluorine. So as this moisture and this oxygen gets to these minerals here, it reacts with them and creates oxides, which tend to be water soluble, and those will percolate down through these cracks course, the water table. Okay? When these solutions hit this water table, there's no air down here. Any air that was dissolved in this water quickly gets consumed by reacting with various minerals. And so these oxide minerals tend to convert again into sulfides and such, and you will get, in this area here, what they call secondary enrichment. And the secondary enrichment can often be extremely rich. The caveat is you need a water table that's fairly stable over a long period of time. You need enough water percolating down through here over time, and we're talking thousands of years, to react with, oxidize, and mobilize these minerals and bring it down to the water table. But these grades can be extremely high, hundreds of ounces per ton silver, dozens of ounces per ton gold, things like copper, etc., can be very, very rich. I knew one mine where they had stuff in the secondary enrichment was running 60% chalcopyrite. Okay, so that's where the water table comes in. Volume and pressure coming out of the impact crusher. It's a pretty good volume. Pressure, I'm not a really good judge. I would guess 1 or 2 psi maybe at the most. But enough volume and enough pressure that it's blowing the dust uphill in a 2-inch diameter tube at the rate of over 100 pounds of solids per hour. So if that gives you any help. Hello, Stephen. How's it going? Well, if it's me, probably butt of the joke. Let's see. Yeah, and that's what this is. This is butt roast and yellow and red bell peppers and onions and broth. And we like those too because when we're out in the field, it's a very quick and easy and yet very nice dinner. We can just take that, put it in a pan, put it on the stove, heat it up, and we've got a nice dinner. We can drain it once it's hot and add barbecue sauce and have pork barbecue. We can put a gravy on it. We can put Alfredo on it. We can have beef, chicken, what we call meat mix, which is hamburger and bacon and sausage. And it just makes it real easy to have a nice dinner real quick and simple with basically only one pan. We use the same pan. I'll cook it, and she likes cheese. Usually throw some cheese in there for her, and she'll eat her half, and then I'll eat my half, Well, make bigger batches, Chris. That can be highly variable, Roberts. One of the reasons it rides an iron horse, because iron oxide isn't very soluble. So as the meteoric water is working its way down, it's leaving behind the iron oxides. So you get that iron oxide gossan left, and that is what you see. But typically down here, if there was a good stable aquifer somewhere in reasonable range, it's not 2,000 feet down, you should have some good secondary enrichment. Montana B, there might be some good secondary enrichment down there. I don't know. In Montana B, we have some material that's running over 1 ounce to the ton gold and 33% iron. if that helps you. Okay. And of course, the ratio goes down from there. We have limonite that's running 1/4 ounce to the ton, things like that. So, it varies. Um, and a lot of that has to do with the concentration of gold in the solution that was originally depositing the vein material. And that changes over time. It's not going to be consistent. As I showed you last week, just from this one vein, here we have a pretty porous limonite looking material. And this got a lot more silica. You can feel the density is substantially more here. This has a lot more silica, and what you can't see, because I can look and see in the camera, this is actually a lot blacker than this is. But for whatever reason, the camera isn't displaying it as such. Tricky, depending upon the associated minerals, it may or may not work. If it's associated with magnetite, it could. You can also induce magnetism for short periods of time. I forget exactly how you do it, but I know it can be done. But it would have to be something that's magnetically susceptible. And you can use it in two different ways. You could pull a magnetic away from the non-magnetic gold, or you could pull magnetics that contain gold to concentrate it. If your leach solution can't deal with a reasonable amount of iron, it's probably not going to work too well, because iron is kind of ubiquitous in gold deposits in general. Cheap 2-inch check valves. Define cheap. I was getting some for, I don't know, $30, something like that. You can kind of make a kind of a check valve, but they make foot valves, which is a particular kind of check valve. Yeah, just go down to the hardware store in the plumbing department and look. They'll have some. 2-inch isn't that expensive. Hardware store. I mean, Home Depot, Lowe's. I got mine at Power Townsend, which is local here because we like to do business with local companies. Again, it's highly variable. Roberts, you can have there's a wide variety of high density minerals. And you could have even sulfides that show up in the black sand that aren't terribly magnetic. And blind dude, plumbing's pretty easy. It's no harder than electrical, generally a lot less dangerous. The only trick is sealing the joints in general and cutting it to the right length. In sealing the joints, if you're gluing stuff together, that's fairly simple. If you're threading it together, pipe joint compound, if you have a good fit, has the advantage of you have a residue left over when you're done. And so you can take it apart and put it back together, and if it's not too high a pressure, you'll usually get a decent seal. If the best seal is usually with the thread seal tape. The negative to that is it's a little trickier to use. You wind up with no residue. When you take it apart, you just got little pieces of tape everywhere. And the little pieces, if you're not careful in certain applications, like if you were thread sealing stuff on a diesel injector system, if you get that tape past the end of the threads and then screw it in, that can go and plug your orifices, which is bad juju. Yeah, valve ties available. Simple check valves. A foot valve is a check valve and a screen that's designed to go at the bottom of a suction hose or a well pipe. Okay, and that's all it is. It's a combination of a screen and a check valve. You also have spring actuated check valves and gravity actuated check valves. For example, if you had a vertical, where's my, this will work. If you have your pipe here, your check valve here, your pipe here. Now, some will have a round diaphragm with a spring here. So the water pressure pushes it up and the spring pushes it back down. That can be used in any orientation because you got spring pushing it back in. On the other hand, you can have a flapper type, which has, basically a hinge here and a disc that rotates on the hinge like this against a seat. And this has to be oriented with gravity running this direction. Okay? If gravity isn't that way, if you turn it upside down, this just falls right open and does you no good. So if you have to have it in a horizontal or vertical orientation the other way, then you need to use a spring type. But I say, when you go to the hardware store, when it's not installed, you can actually look and see what kind it is. Plastic. I don't know if mine were 1.5 inches. I think they were 1.5 inches, and I think they were, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of $25-$30, I believe. Okay. Probably blind dude, simply because it's got a larger opening. When it opens up and gives you a complete flow. Whereas with the spring-loaded disc, it only comes away from a seat and there's a gap there. And if it wouldn't go through there, it wouldn't work too well. You probably want a flapper that's oriented in the right direction. Yep. Let's see. What else? Any more questions? We love questions. Oh my goodness. Oh. I don't know. Foot valves maybe. Harbor Freight, but do they have threads at both ends is the question on that. Thank you, David. You take care. Get a good night's sleep. Basically, yeah, Tricky. We did a magnetic separation with a very fancy machine over at Butte, and it didn't give us a very good concentration nor a clean tailings. So, 200 grams, 3.6 milligrams. About 18 parts per million. There was 14. Yeah, it's not horrible. You're getting, 4/5 into one as opposed to the other. Hello, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
But again, you're still throwing away a lot of your gold. On the other hand, depending upon whether it's gravity separatable or whatever, that may work fine. One of them you might be able to treat cheaper than the other, and it's useful. $1.62, what's that, gram or ounce, Adam? Gram, gold nugget. Okay. That's pretty good. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's a
Ew,
nice
where
little
was
picker.
he?
Oh, I don't know. Somewhere. Adam. Salem, Oregon tonight. Not sure where he got the gold nugget. Well, you could email me a picture. hardrocku@outlook.com. But the where was I? Yeah, it sucks being an old geezer sometimes. Sweet Home, Oregon. I don't know. Salem doesn't sound too fun to me, but it's better than Portland. But I'd prefer to be, east of the Cascades. Oh, here, I'll just type it in. Herd Rock you? There you go. So anyhow, there's my email address, Adam. Oh, yeah, I wish Jim were feeling a little better, but oh well. That's the way things go sometimes.
Yeah, I hope he gets to feeling better.
I'm sure he will. He's a tough geezer. Well, he's not a geezer yet. He's a tough bird.
Say, he's young
I'm a geezer.
compared to you.
You're welcome, Adam. I'm not sure
He's young compared to you.
Looks like what, about 10 years?
Yeah, he's like 10 years younger than you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how old he is. I know he's stronger than I am. He can pick up stuff I can't. He's a pretty sharp guy, too. Lots of hand on this, that, and the other. Let's see. So we got one with Richard, your waste oil furnace. Okay. Tricky, I got your stuff from your furnace. Oh my goodness, this is one of the toughest things ever. Walt, can you tell me what kind of rock this is? It's got a lot of iron in it. Looks to be a high silica veinlet there. You've got a number of, you got a vein with a lot of quartz in one spot and less quartz in others. That would be definitely worth sampling. You could sample just the high quartz stuff, and just remember that's a very narrow thing and it's a high grade sample, but it gives you an idea what the highest grade would be, and then go across the structure and cut a trench of equal width and depth across it. And when you assay that, that gives you an idea how much that structure is at that location. And oh, come on, close that. So yeah, definitely good looking rock. I mean, it's worth a check. How do you calculate the gold in solution? Well, that's actually a good question, whether it's in solution or rock, Rafael. So let me show everyone how you do it. Okay. Night, Glenn. See if this will erase as it is. Yeah. Now, in order to find out how much gold there is, you need to know the concentration and the amount of whatever it is you're measuring. So, for example, you got 1 ounce per ton, and you have 2 tons. 1 times 2 is 2 ounces. Fairly simple. if you got 1.86 grams per metric ton, which is 1,000 kilograms. This would be in parts per million. This whole thing here is also grams per metric ton is also parts per million, which is a very common way you're going to get some results. Times 1,500 pounds equals, well, the problem is you got kilograms and pounds there. So you have to convert one to the other. Okay. So 2.2 kilograms per pound. So let's just turn this into kilograms. 1,500 divided by 2.2. So that means you got, I'm just going to round it, 682 kilograms. Okay. Same amount of rock, just a different number at the end. And 682 is 0.682 of a metric ton times that. So 0.682 times 1.86 equals, again, I'm going to round, 1.27 grams. Okay. The only tricky part is figuring out in something like this which units you want at the end. Okay. You can convert 1,000 kilograms into pounds and all kinds. There's different ways of doing it. That's probably the simplest. Turn your pounds into kilograms, then divide that by the metric tons. It's 0.682 metric tons. Okay, same number. That's the advantage of metric. And you get 1.86 grams.
That is the only advantage of that.
In the case of solution, let's suppose my test solution right there is 30.4 parts per million. Okay, that's kind of my standard pregnant solution. Okay, and let's suppose I did 100 gallons, because this would be really close. And at the end, I came out with, let's say, 2.5 parts per million. Okay? The difference is what got grabbed in the filter here. So you got 30.4 minus 2.5. The difference is 27.9 parts per million. Okay. Now, the problem is gallons isn't a weight. So you need to turn that into a weight. You can do it a couple different ways. I'm just going to use a rough estimate, 4 liters per gallon. And so at 400 liters, each liter is 1 kilogram. So it's 400 kilograms, 0.4 metric tons. So 27.9 times 0.4 equals 11.16 grams. Okay, that's how many grams of gold are in that filter. Then when I just took the filter apart, dried the material, the resin in it, and then let's suppose I had 200 grams of resin dried, 11.16 grams of gold. $11.16 divided by 200 and you would have 5.58% gold. Okay? That's the way I did that. I hope everyone could hear me okay. So that's the basic process. Now you can do that. The funny thing is, if you're just comparing one thing to another, you can just get ridiculous. So let's suppose you want to know a percent recovery. Okay? So you have parts per million here. Gold 10.3. And you did a concentration. You concentrate it. And you wind up with 50, good Lord, 50.2 parts per minute right away. That's a 5-fold upgrade roughly. At 8 pounds. Then you got tailings, which would be 50 minus 8, so you can get 42 pounds of tailings. Okay? Now, so you got 10.3 part per million pounds. Okay? Now that looks ridiculous, but it'll work. And this is 50.2 times 8. $401.6 parts per million pounds. Okay? So 10.3 times 50 is 515. So this is 515 parts per million pounds. Okay? So 401 divided by 515 equals 77.86% recovery. Now, you'd still have to do a little more calculation to figure out how many grams was here and how many grams was there. But in point of fact, you got 77.86% recovery. If that's good enough for what you're doing, then that's good enough. You don't need to go much further. So it's concentration times amount. Concentration times amount. No, I have not, gold miner. So anyhow, that's kind of how you do the calculations. You just have to make sure that the concentration is in the same. It's all in parts per million. And the amount is in the same pounds. Then you wind up with some weird part per million pounds. It's not parts per million per pound. It's part per million pounds. Okay. That's the problem, because that appears to be what it is. At least the evidence we have indicates 0. It's by definition, it is a gram of H2O, if I am correct. 1 milliliter of water at maximum density, which I think is like 3 degrees centigrade. Okay. Is the definition of a gram of H2O. I mean, that's how they came up with it. So, okay, Tricky, you take care. Take care of that baby, okay? Your wife doing okay, we hope. The baby
Good night,
too.
Tricky.
4 degrees C sounds about right.
Good night, Tricky.
And I know it's a few degrees above, which is one of the reasons why in most substances, the solid would sink to the bottom of the water, or the bottom of the liquid. If that happened with water, the oceans would just be solid ice with a thin skim of water on top. Yep. Amazing how many little coincidences happen, huh? So anyhow, that's how you calculate either how much gold is in a particular amount of stuff. I mean, you could take this 10.3 parts per million and 50 pounds, and then you would have to say, okay, well, if I had 1,000,000 pounds, I'd have so many, 1,000,000 pounds of rock, I'd have this many pounds of gold, then do the division and come out in pounds or whatever. You can do that too. When I was in high school, I took math I took 5 years of math, 10 semesters. And I don't like math. But you know what? They beat it into my damn head. Excellent, Tricky. Everyone's doing just fine, little one.
Tell Tricky, you better give that baby lots of hugs and kisses from Auntie Tin Hat.
You hear that?
Tinfoil Goddess.
Auntie Tinfoil Hat Goddess wants you to give that kid plenty of hugs and kisses. Dimensional analysis will save your sanity? It doesn't sound like it, Chris. I'm sorry, that sounds scary. But anyhow, any other questions anyone has? The reason these types of calculations are so important is because that's how you decide whether you're doing well or not, whether you can make a profit or not, etc. I mean, that's all you can, if you can't do these calculations, you're just guessing. Now, sometimes you have enough slack that's fine. You can, if you've got $100 of gold per cubic yard in your placer thing, and it takes you $10 a cubic yard to process it, you don't have to be a genius to figure out you're doing fine. The problem is, if you've got $100 per cubic yard, after you run it through your plant, what was your recovery? Did you get $100 per cubic yard? Did you get $50 per cubic yard? This is what Mining Magnets is looking at. These people have a placer operation, and they're perfectly happy with their recovery, but they don't know exactly what they're throwing away. That's what he wants me to figure out. And if they're throwing away enough and we can recover it at a reasonable cost, then he might try and work a deal with them. So you always want to do this. Dan Hurd has, did something at his, I don't think it was a Blue Chip. It was something or other creek mine, placer mine there. And they brought in someone and they did a small placer plant for a while. And yeah, a lot of times, Roberts, to make life simple, you pick the right amount of material to test. And yeah, Trout Creek. And then the multiplication becomes real easy. I'd say, and Dan Hurd was wondering, well, how much, was he getting good recovery? And then they went and they took a cubic yard of material and processed it and weighed the gold. Well, that doesn't tell you anything because that wasn't the gold, that wasn't the material that was run through the plant. And they say they're going to be testing some tailings next, and that's the way you do it. You get a representative sample of the tailings, a big representative sample, like a cubic yard, but not from one spot. Take the tailings and take a number of samples until you've got a cubic yard. Then process that with equipment. And as you're processing it, now he's got a high banker that he believes gets really good recovery, and it very well may. I just have no idea. But pan those tailings, see what you're getting. In my case, at Montana B, it's too fine to see anyway. It's not going to do me any good. I have to use analysis to do essentially the same thing. That's another thing I got to do this winter is take some of my tailings from the pad, rinse them several times in clean water to make sure that I don't have any dissolved gold left in them, and then split it and assay it. How much is left in there? Are we getting a good recovery or not? And that is entirely possible, Roberts. Say, I simply have no idea. So I'm a scientist. I'm trained to say, this is the data. And the data is Dan Hurd says this gets very good recovery. That's the extent of my information. No independent verification or falsification of it. I don't know. But when they were running that placer plant, assuming the placer gold was small enough, they should have been testing it at the time. They should have been taking samples with a pan and testing it to see what was going. Either that, or while they were doing that, diverting part of the stream and then running it through his high banker, But that's one of the things that you want to do small scale testing first to determine theoretical numbers. Like in our case, we get approximately 90% lixivation, 24 hours of agitation. Okay. At the temperatures I was doing those tests at. Lately, it's been a lot colder than that out at the ranch. But then you have the adsorption onto the resin. We're getting over 90% recovery in the first stage when it was at a lower loading. As it got higher loading, the recovery went down to where it really crapped out toward the end there. And that's why we know here's how high we can do it. We need to stop before we get there. We're just going to be losing gold. But you do that by testing. What's going in, what's coming out. Do your mass balance. This much of this grade in, this much of this grade out. What the heck? What did we recover? That gives you your theoretical numbers. Then when you get your actual plant running, you double check everything. And you keep double checking. As time goes on, you keep verifying that nothing has gone horribly awry that you didn't notice because you're just assuming that things are going well. For example, when you're processing ore, let's suppose we, by next summer, we got a plant that's running 2 tons per hour. Okay. Well, how do we know how well it's doing in terms of recoveries and such? Well, first of all, we need to know how much gold is in the rock. And for that, you would typically use some kind of process sampling device, one of which is pretty simple to do. It's called a disc sampler. And let's suppose you've got, this is a side view, you've got a conveyor like this, and it's dumping onto a pile. Okay? Now you got a pretty good idea how much is on this by measuring it previously. You've got a crusher here, and you know how much it's crushing. So, you know, it's doing 2 tons per day. What's the average grade? Well, what you can do is in here you can put what's known as a disc sampler. In top view, you have a disc, and your stream from the conveyor, let's say here's your stream coming off the conveyor. Now that's going to pile up here. Okay? This disc rotates very slowly in this, and by very slowly I mean 1 or 2 revolutions an hour, maybe. Okay? Very, very slow. So as this pile, as it moves around, more and more stuff gets put on the pile on this end. So you wind up with something that's a series of pie slices like this, each bit, you know, just a small fraction of the material coming over it. Okay? Because all the excess is just going to fall right past. Just as it comes over and you get a little more room, you'll get a little more stuff. Then over here, you have a blade on top of it. So as it comes around to this spot here, well, actually it's more like this. This blade scrapes it off into a bucket or some kind of container. And then you take that sample, crush it and split it down. And that will give you a very good cumulative sample of that entire 2 tons. You might wind up with 20 pounds, which is a much easier amount of material to play with. And depending upon what the grind is here, you may want to regrind it, or that may be fine. You know, it would depend on what you're doing. But that gives you a grade number that you can multiply by that tons, and now you know how much gold you put into your circuit. Then when you compare that to the gold coming out in solution, like that calculation I just told you, do they balance? That's why you call it a mass balance. You're saying, how much did I put in? How much did I get out? Not with thin margins and rising energy costs. That's where you have to have high enough grade and low enough processing and mining costs. If you can't do that, you're screwed. So you want to find that out as soon as possible. If it's a no-go, and walk away. Okay, save a lot of money that way, a lot of time. Go do something else. Who was it? It might have been Ann Landers, or it might have been her sister, whoever that was. It was an advice column. And she said, you're never going to find Mr. Right hanging onto the arm of Mr. Wrong, because Mr. Right doesn't play that game. Likewise, you're not going to have a successful gold mine if you spend all your time and money on an unsuccessful mineralized zone. If it's not going to make you a profit, it's best to find that out in 10 minutes and $10 if you can. Dear Abby, that's right. And that's the key to exploration. Is this potentially profitable? And find that out as quickly and cheaply as you can. And if the answer is no, walk away. Your feet are your biggest tool in prospecting, and that's walking away from a bad deal, because you're going to have unless you're really, really lucky, dozens to hundreds of bad mines before you find a good one. Okay? Depends on what you're looking for, how difficult it is. By micro scale mining, we open up a lot of possibilities that the big boys don't give a damn about. I mean, Freeport McMoran doesn't care about 10,000 tons of 10 ounces to the ton. They don't care. It's not big enough for them. You, on the other hand, might be kind of interested in 100,000 ounces if you only have to move 10,000 tons to get to it. That's, currently about $18,000 a ton. That's sweet. So say by going for a somewhat different niche, but with the same kind of intelligent focus and tools as the big boys use, you can have a lot of opportunities that they can't take advantage of, and the people who don't have your knowledge or skills can't take advantage of it either, because they don't have what it takes. I mean, if you've got a good carpenter but he's never done any mechanic work, can he rebuild an engine? No. Got an engine, an old engine, a bunch of parts, and he's got a pickup that doesn't run. A mechanic can take that and turn it into a running pickup. A carpenter with no mechanical skills cannot do it. So that's what this channel strives to do, is to find out what knowledge and skills you're lacking and make it available to you. So if you find an opportunity, and that's one of the skills, recognizing a good opportunity and walking away from bad ones. So if you do find an opportunity that fits the niche, you can take advantage of it when most other people can't, either because it's too small for them or because it's too complicated for them. That's our job here, to give you those tools and knowledge. And, this is like, Chris and I are going to be working on the spot test, for gold. Why? You spend a lot of money assaying. Oh, geez, you can spend a lot of money assaying. So if you can get actionable intelligence a lot cheaper and a lot faster, that's a huge, huge advantage for the small time guy. For the big time guy, it doesn't matter, because they need something that's worth $500 million anyway. What does $2 million worth of assay mean to them? Not much. To you, rather than spend $2 million of assaying, you can go fishing and say, I win. Done. I'm going to live off the interest, what would it be, $100,000 a year, and go fishing. Hell yeah. Okay. But that's the purpose. And tools like the impact mill, tools like the leaching solution and the resin and how to get it out of the resin stuff. Again, that's why instead of just trying to duplicate what the big boys do, we're trying to look at it from a micro mining standpoint and say, okay, is that simple enough? Is that safe enough? A big mining company, if they got to put a guy in a freaking spacesuit and it saves them $1 million a year, hell, they'll do it. Not a bright idea for someone of my knowledge level. That's why Chris was saying, be real careful with that. You could make some really bad things, because that's our job, to be that intermediary and develop the knowledge base so that you guys can take advantage of it. So that's our basic goal here, aside from just having fun and learning new things and creating stuff. I'm a natural inventor. I like to invent. I'm a natural teacher. I like to teach. I like to do these things. It's fun. Okay. Why am I doing it? Because I like to. Wow. I'm not extraordinarily selfless. I enjoy what I'm doing. And I thank everybody Tricky Dicky and Chris and the claim owner and all this other stuff to make it possible for me to enjoy this stuff. Okay? And all you guys out there, when we're able to help somebody and they let us know, man, you really helped me out, that makes me feel good, which is, aside from making sure I got a roof over my head, food on my table, and whatever the goddess needs, is pretty much what life's all about. Okay. Any other questions, anybody? I know I got 19 people and nobody comments, so I guess I was doing a good soliloquy or I put everyone to sleep. Not sure. Whichever it is, that's reality. Oh, yeah. Oh. All righty. Chris's dittos there.
What? Somebody say something?
Yeah, and sometimes I make mistakes. Luckily, my the claim owner there is usually smart enough to find them. Just made a bottle turn very small, or do you mean slowly? With 2 fidget spinners mounted on a hand drill. It's pretty cool. Work horizontally and vertically. I'm unable to visualize this well. If you have a YouTube channel where you could put this up, that would be kind of cool to see. Or if you could make a video.
Yeah, we want to see this.
And just put a little clip of it or something, you could email it to me.
Picture it didn't happen.
Now, this is somewhere it's a movement, so it's video or it didn't happen. Sounds cool. It may not be terribly useful or it might be quite useful. It's hard to tell. Anything that's new and I've never seen it before, I never know. But that's how I learned to do a lot of stuff, is just curiosity. Any other questions or comments or anything like that? It was a kind of eventful week with all the tornadoes. I was watching some guy. Yeah, I am a little bit, Terry. It's about time. I was watching some guy who was doing it, following it on the radars. How cold is it here? Let's see. And it was interesting because apparently if you know what you're doing, you can click on pixels and it'll tell you the wind speeds and everything. 26 degrees on the porch right now. No snow at the moment. And not much snow on the ground right now. But it was interesting to watch him, analyzing it in real time. It was a bit distressing too, but oh well. Yes, that is correct, Roberts. In almost all cases, well water is below maximum density. Yeah, it was pretty whack. Man, that was something. And how selective is that, Melinda? Does it make all the fines stick together or just some of them? I think it'd be somewhat selective. And that might be very useful too at times. Someday I'm going to get an ore that'll be important to float, and then I'll learn some flotation too. Okay, sounds good. Mercury has a couple major problems, Roberts. not the least of which is usually it's illegal. And the other problem is the surface chemistry of the mercury. Well, one of the other problems, the surface of the mercury can become poisoned by chemicals in the ore, depending upon what the ore is. And real fine gold cannot penetrate the surface tension of the mercury. So the gold I've got, for example, will not amalgamate worth a crap. Okay. But let's say for mine, it wouldn't work very well at all. And again, in many situations, it's completely illegal now in the United States. In other areas of the world, they're still using it. But even there, the recoveries from hard rock ores are so low that I've gotten numerous people that are like, how do I do cyanide leaching of hard rock? It's like, this is something I'd rather not try and teach over the internet. Things can go horribly awry. With the thiosulfate leach, it's a lot safer. It's still not, perfectly safe. Nothing is, but at least it's not bad. Okay. Any other questions? Roberts, as a general rule, I just not even think about mercury. There's usually a better way to do it. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to brag on my grandson. He's going to Texas A&M Amarillo. He went there from North Carolina to learn about horses because he really likes. I mean, my daughter and that family over there, they have horses and go on riding almost every weekend and stuff. They live out in the country, North Carolina. He was doing good there, but then he started taking other subjects for information. They said, do you want to play football? And he said, no, I got other stuff I want to do. And he honestly, he's a decent football player. He's a big dude, man. I really don't want to make him angry. But he told me something the other day because we were talking about learning different things and this and that. He said, you never learn in your comfort zone. If you're comfortable, you're not learning. And I thought, man, that's pretty good for a 25-year-old. What interest rate are you talking about, Trevor? Yeah, I've got amalgam fillings in my mouth. I haven't noticed any problems. Good night, Terry.
Good night, Terry.
What interest rate are you talking about, Trevor? Something anywhere close to the inflation rate? Answer, no. Not unless you're Nancy Pelosi. Then you can make all kinds of stock picks that do well. Did you hear how was it Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter.
Twitter? Because somebody had figured that out, that all you got to do if you want to make money in the stock market is look what Nancy Pelosi's investing in, because she's got the inside track. And so they started tracking her financial investments. And Twitter took it off, took the channel down. I have no idea, Roberts. Can we visit conglomerate? Do you mean conglomerate rock or just cemented sediments? That would be probably best with Jim, who is of course sick tonight. But it can get a little bit questionable as what's conglomerate rock and what's just cemented alluvium, because the difference is just how hard it's cemented. You got the email address, Melinda? Well, it might be like Schlieven Photography or something like that. Chris? I don't see anything yet, Melinda. No, I don't see anything, Melinda. Let me come back to you. Let's see. Let's try junk just in case. Oh, there was something. Where was that? I don't think you're bocajava.com, are you, Melinda? I'm pretty sure that's not helpful. Aaron, personal account. That's probably phishing. I'll check it out. Oh, here's somebody with a good legitimate question. Move to inbox. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Quick look back at my inbox, Melinda. Still don't see it. Back to you where I can see what you're doing. Eva's doing okay. The oncologist looked at her today. Didn't find anything of serious concern. He's going to do some routine imaging and stuff. And see, if they see anything. That this is kind of planned to keep a very close eye on her. What were they going to do? The CT scans every
CTs every 3 months. Exams every 3 months. CT scans, they're setting a baseline this month, and then they're going to probably do them every 3 or 6 months.
Yeah, 3 to 6 months on the CT scans plus checking her out. Yeah, Trevor.
3 years.
Gold in conglomerate. Yeah, that would be a good one to more with Jim, but we could certainly get to that. Not a problem. Melinda, did you find the? Did you have my email? Because part of the problem is if I haven't said a particular thing, you can't review the comments on the streams. Okay, I'm going to write it down right here so you can copy. Oh, come on, you stupid ass computer. I had a computer that's got 27 touch sensitive things. I just want a keyboard. I think I got it. hardrocku@outlook.com. Okay, so there is my email address. Just block, just copy that real quick. Then you can put that into your email program. And you too, Daniel. They're extremely interesting gold-bearing conglomerates in South Africa. And a lot of the very deep mines are supposedly essentially metamorphosed conglomerates too. I'm not sure. Now, the deep mining in South Africa is pretty interesting all by itself. Positive is you. Precambrian. Okay, that'd be, what about, was it 700 million years ago? Or was it further than that? Roberts, I had a dentist when I was a teenager, but every time my mom would take me into him, he'd fill a cavity. And then ever since my teenage years, I've never had a cavity. I kind of think he was probably inventing cavities, if you know what I mean. Probably right now, just send me an email. We'll chat about it, and then we'll worry about the other stuff later. Yeah, that's what I thought, Chris. Okay, Melinda. Any other questions or anything like that? Yeah, the South Africa mining is a very interesting scenario all by itself. That would be fun when we're not dealing with practical questions. Okay, any other questions? Going once. Yeah, I think the teeth cleaning thing probably is a lot of unnecessary stuff, more for, what do you call it? How things look. Aesthetics rather than practical health stuff.
Oh, you're going to be getting plastic surgery?
No. We're talking about dentistry.
Oh, so you get good teeth and I don't. I see how this is going.
Not my fault. It's all genes.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Well, I own genes too, you know.
Yeah, that'd be cool, Tom. Is a spectrometer as good or better than an XRF? In my opinion, and to my knowledge, the spectrophotometry, coupled with proper sample preparation, is usually more precise than XRF. I was just seeing something where they're using high energy, almost X-rays, almost gamma rays, and doing some analysis using that, and it seems to be a lot better than your standard X-ray fluorescence. A lot less sample prep, and no chemicals and stuff. Just basically crush it, split it, crush it, put some in a canister, put it on the belt, runs through, and does like three goes at it, and yeah, that seems to be pretty good. But in terms of X-ray fluorescence, especially the handheld units and stuff, is too poor a signal to noise ratio to get good numbers on, reliable numbers, in my opinion. If you have really high grade ore, if you got base metal ores and stuff, it's probably more than adequate to give you the information you need. And because you're dealing in things like tenths of a percent, whereas a 1 ounce per ton is like 1 part in 40,000. It's a lot less. So a little bit of variation in your data stream can create a whole lot more variability in the analysis, and that's why it's a problem. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired. Not too bad though. We learned a new thing too on the way back. I usually don't like driving at night, although it's not too bad on a freeway. But we were coming back on this Highway 12 at night in the winter, when it's been snowing, going over a pass at 6,500 feet. Oh, and by the way, Chris, it was, how many miles was that? No, the grade. It's an 8% grade.
It's an 8% grade. That's 4.5 miles, 5 miles.
I think it was long. I think he said like 6 miles long.
6 miles. That's right.
Yeah, 6 miles, 8% grade. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Yeah, if I have some extra time this winter and I'm feeling good and such, we might get a hold of you and see if we can't go help you out for a little bit. We'll see what happens. I'm afraid that I'm going to be too busy to break away. But, you know, that would be fun. And, you know, if you want to come up here and do some stuff, let me know. I'll check with the claim owner and we can go from there. And, but anyhow, so as I was saying, as we're, you know, driving along there, it's at night, and that would be cool. And Eva was like watching, you know, because she can see better than I can. She's watching well ahead, and she's saying, "Curve," just to warn me, there's a curve coming up. Before the headlights get to it, from what I can see, because I got to get, you know, both eyes fixed up here again, you know, and so that really helped because I knew there's a curve coming up. Okay, fine. And after a while, it started getting a little bit annoying. Not that she was trying to be, but it turned out, wow, if you get a little bit annoyed, your adrenaline comes up and you're wide awake and focused. It's like, that works well. What the heck? And so, yeah, that's what I was talking about, Chris, when I said that pass. You know, that is not where I want to hit a patch of black ice unexpectedly. So I was coming down at, I don't know, 35, 40 miles an hour, just coming down second gear, 2,000 RPM. And judging the coldness by when other people pass me, were they kicking up spray? If they were, it's not frozen. But anyhow, yeah, Jeff, that would be cool to come over there sometime. I presume all your mines are, well, how many of your mines are accessible in wintertime, or are they seasonal? You know, I'd love to try fine crushing and panning some of that stuff from the I think you call it the drift mine, but the one with the fossilized placers there that you've done the last few videos on, that would be kind of cool. Bring my Hilti and see how it beats up that caliche. Okay, I say we'll see if I get time. I'm kind of thinking it's not going to be too slack this winter. I got a mill to build too. So I'm guessing I'm gonna stay busy. That and repair and maintenance on me. So yeah. But nice to see you, Jeff. If there's anything I can help you with sometime, just get a hold of me. You definitely know how, and I'll see if I can help you. Are they mostly in like California and Arizona there? I might be seeing Rob Reppin's mine too. Okay, so we're working on it. Nevada and Arizona. Yeah, might work out. We'll see. It would be fun. It would be fun. Love to see you sometime. Been watching you for years now, and maybe building a furnace like you built that one time. That was a nice video there, and I may see how well I can duplicate it.
Is Jeff Williams there?
Yeah, Jeff's on.
Hi.
You want to see? Oh,
tell
you
Slim
can't.
I said hi.
Eva's not currently presentable, or she'd come and wave and say hi. Yeah. Oh, anyhow. Well, I better call it a night. I got to put in my eye drops and get some sleep. We got work to do tomorrow. What's on the calendar, by the way? I know I had some other stuff. Yeah, that's yours. I don't have anything else until Friday. Okay, that's good.
I don't have anything.
I get so confusing.
Just my rooms.
Yep. All right, Chris. Anyone got any questions before we close it down for the night? Yes, that's right. I should have said Merry Christmas, everybody. I didn't think of that. Chris is saying good night, Eva.
Good night.
Yep. All righty. Going twice. Any questions? Oh, thanks for showing up, Jeff. Appreciate it. You bet. And say a special Merry Christmas to Slim from Eva.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
All righty. No more questions, so I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Thanks for some good questions. And I'll try and get a bead of gold by next week. We'll see. And I think the oxyacetylene should do it. It'll certainly get me the heat, and then we'll see what happens from there. So happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.